Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another podcast on MMA Unhinged. And as you can see, we've got a fantastic panel here today. We've got Oscar Silva, the usual suspect, and then we've got Luke Kelly that we see here on MMA Unhinged a lot. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining me. Oscar, firstly, how are you?
I am fantastic. I'm feeling great. And how could you not feel great when we are just days ahead of UFC 300, which, in my opinion, is the best top to bottom card the UFC has ever put on paper. And I expect it to deliver across the board.
Completely agree. Luke, we've got a fantastic weekend of fights coming up. Probably the most anticipated weekend of maybe this year. UFC 299 was good, UFC 298 was good, but there's something special in the air about UFC 300, isn't there?
There is. And I feel almost like, that kid on the night before Christmas. That's how I'm feeling right now. I'm feeling in my bones, and I'm excited. And as a fan, as a professional, and I'm excited. And I honestly, you look at this card, maybe casuals might say, oh, the card could be better. Honestly, I don't know how you can make the card any better. Every fight, and even every fight in general, could be a fight in the night. So we're definitely going to see what's going to come, and I couldn't be any more excited.
Completely agree. Let's get it underway. Let's talk about it then. Obviously, the UFC 300 main event will be Alex Pereira versus Jamal Hill. Without further ado, Oscar, we were talking about before we went on air. Alex Pereira making the first defense of his title at 205-pound title. I'm trying to get it on the screen here. I'm being stupid. But here we go. I was looking at the whole card before we went on air. But Alex Pereira versus Jamal Hill in the main event. Oscar, this is a huge fight for the division. Obviously, Jamal Hill was a former champion. He had to, relinquish his belt. All that malarkey. Alex Pereira, you know what he possesses. You know what he's going to bring. Who brings the power on the night? And who finds that chin and gets the knockout? Is it the Brazilian or is it the American?
I'm going to have to go with the Brazilian, Alex Pereira. This guy is maybe the best striker in the UFC today. He is so lethal in multiple ways. We know those leg kicks are extraordinarily dangerous, especially for a man who's coming off of a torn ACL injury about a year ago in Jamal Hill. And Jamal Hill has even admitted that he found out about this fight the day it was announced, which was around 6 weeks ago. So I don't know just how prepared and how recovered he is from that injury. So that definitely puts some doubt in my mind. Not to mention, his last fight was against Glover Teixeira. He won the title, never lost the title. But Glover Teixeira is the man that trains Alex Pereira. And I am sure he is given him some advice on how to find the chin on Jamal Hill. And I assure you that once those leg kicks get going, Jamal Hill's legs will swell up, and his footwork, which to begin with, I don't think is that high level. I think it's going to deteriorate, and he's going to get caught in the corner, and he's going to get hit with that infamous left hook. I'll say round 3 for Alex Pereira, a TKO victory.
Yeah, Luke, obviously, what's your thoughts? Obviously, Oscar put it down there perfectly. I completely agree. I think Alex Pereira, finds that chin of Hill and maybe puts him out, but I'm not too sure. I know Jamal Hill, he's very mobile. He likes to strike as well, but I do feel like this matchup could potentially play into Pereira's hands. But is that threat of a takedown Hill there? When have we seen that though in the past?
Well, I think Oscar kind of said it all in a nutshell. I completely agree. I think everything kind of stands against Jamal Hill in this fight, and we obviously know the skills that that the champ has, but I think after I just think everything's against this guy. Who knows how recovered he is with that injury. You have that. He obviously won the title fair. He beat Glover Teixeira, and it was impressive. But we got Glover Teixeira now spilling the beans, and he knows what he was up against, and now he's training the champ here. He's training Alex Pereira. So I think there's just so much, and I think Alex Pereira, though, we got to see what his cardio is going to be like. That's one thing I am curious about if it gets to round 4 or 5. I know Oscar said round 3, but let's say it goes to round 4, go to round 5. We got to see, will his cardio hold up? I'm really curious about that. But if I had to go all in with the chips in, I have to go with Alex Pereira, the champ. I think he's going to get it done. And if it doesn't go to round 4 or 5, I think round 3 TKO for the champ.
Like you said, if we're going all chips in, I'm going all on red. Alex Pereira all the way to the bank, right?
Yeah, and one thing that we definitely have to acknowledge here is Alex Pereira has been knocked out by Israel Adesanya back in April of 2023, and Jamal Hill has never been finished by knockout. So that's definitely something to think about there. Who is the more durable guy? I think that will definitely be a factor in this fight. But nonetheless, I expect this to be an absolute banger back and forth. Somebody's going to go down in this fight. It will not disappoint.
And I just want to add, I just want to add quickly before you move on there, Lenny. I gotta say, I just respect the fact of how much respect are between two men. I don't know if you watched the clip. You know, he had Jamal had Alex sign his sweater and just say, "Hey, respect, man. I'm actually a really big fan of you." I just love that. No bullshit, no trash talk. Just get down to business. You know they're gonna fight each other, but respect at the beginning of the fight or before the fight. I love it. Just love it.
Absolutely agree. I feel like it can work in both ways. People will look at that and think, oh, then they're too nice or whatever. But I completely agree of what you're saying. I like seeing that. I like seeing that the nice dudes, the nice guys of MMA. So you absolutely agree on that one. It's good to see like a nice, respectful, lead up to the fight. Fantastic stuff. The co-main event as well is even better. Obviously the lead up and the anticipation. This fight could happen whenever, wherever. I preferably would have liked it to have happened in Beijing, but here we are. UFC 300 Marina, I don't mind it absolutely whatsoever. The defending champion Weili Zhang versus Yan, whatever her name is.
Yan Xiaonan. Come on.
Yeah. So this one, obviously, it's China versus China. Luke, I'm coming to you first. Who wins the belt? Does Weili Zhang retain her belt? We know how good she is. She showcased it throughout, pretty much the whole time inside the UFC. Obviously, that fantastic knockout versus Joanna Jacek. Her only losses have come to Rose Namajunas, but it kind of seems like she's put that in the past now. And maybe she's building a lot more momentum.
Okay, so this is where I'm conflicted with my decision. This is one of the very few fights in the card where I'm actually conflicted with where I stand. You look at the champion, and I think she's fought in more the names, more the higher caliber. But I think like when you look at skill set and whatnot, I find with Yan Xiaonan, I feel like she's I think striking is a little bit more crisper in my opinion. I think we kind of saw that against Jessica Andrade. Mind you, Jessica Andrade, the way she blitz in, she gets caught like that a lot. So it's kind of a textbook work. I think that a lot of fighters can kind of pick up on that. But that being said, Yan Xiaonan, I don't want to count her out in this fight. That being said, the champ there, she's got the power. She's got the skill. We know she can go anywhere on the ground. She can finish it anywhere, and she's done it with every single opponent. I like both ladies, but I actually, as much as I want the champ to stay and still, I think Yan Xiaonan actually has a very good chance. So I'm not going to give you exactly who I think, but I'm leaning more towards the challenger here.
Wow.
Oscar.
That would be a massive upset. Zhang Weili is a 5-1 favorite in this matchup. I think that might be a little heavy realistically, but at the end of the day, I do think she's the superior fighter in many facets of the game. I think Yan Xiaonan, you said there might be the better striker. I think her boxing is really the big difference in this fight. But Zhang Weili is so dangerous with multiple tools on their feet. Her kicks are great. Her Muay Thai, I would say, is better. She's physically stronger, if you ask me. Yan Xiaonan, back in the day, got taken down by Carlos Barza and got stuck in the crucifix position and finished. I didn't like that, but she kind of redeemed herself when she fought Mackenzie Dern, and she got taken down in that fight, but was able to defend all submission attempts and even worked her way up to her feet at times. But I just think Zhang Weili is just a magnificent athlete. And I think that when she tapped out Carlos Barza on the ground, just using her physicality, I just think that will go a long way in this fight, and I think we might see a similar loss for Yan Xiaonan than we saw in the colors bars of the fight. I think Yan Xiaonan gets stuck on bottom. Zhang Weili pounds away at her. In her last fight, she fought Amanda Lemos, and she broke the record for most strikes landed in a strawweight fight. So he will be relentless on the ground, and I think Yan Xiaonan will eventually be saved by the referee on the ground.
Yeah, there's some fantastic points that you both just said. But yeah, I got to agree with Oscar a little bit here. I feel like the challenge of Yan trying to overcome the wrestling of Weili Zhang, I think, is just way too. It's too much of an obstacle for her to overcome. I think the grappling with Zhang is fantastic, and you mentioned there, obviously she looked phenomenal versus Karo Esparza. Karo Esparza had her way against Yan. If 1 + 1 = 2, I think that's got to be the sum.
Yeah, MMA math is usually inaccurate, but I do believe in the potential of Zhang Weili to potentially go down as one of the greatest ever. Her skill set is continuously evolving. I think she gets it done in round 3. And we'll move on now to the BMF title fight.
Yeah, completely ridiculous. 3 title fights. We'll call this a title fight. It is. It's pretty much.
It's a title fight. It's a title fight.
Yeah, I would say it. Justin Gaethje, obviously, trying to defend his BMF championship against Max Holloway. Max Holloway stepping up to 155 pounds for the second time. Obviously, in his UFC career, obviously, he had that time. Well, he was meant to step up against Khabib, didn't happen. Then he stepped up against Dustin Poirier, got bullied, and now he takes on Justin Gaethje. Is it going to be the same story as when Max Holloway fought Dustin Poirier, where he gets bullied a little bit? Because obviously, Justin Gaethje, he's not small. I feel like if Max Holloway wants to have his way a little bit, he's got to put on a lot of weight, to kind of impose his will. But that's when I feel like he'll lose most of his advantages because he's so active, he's so accurate. I feel. How do you see this fight playing out? Basically, is what I'm saying. Does the physicality of Justin Gaethje and the power of Justin Gaethje just be a little bit too much for Max Holloway to handle, like against Dustin Poirier?
Yeah, I'll start off here. I do think that Justin Gaethje gets the job done here. First off, I have to just really say how much I respect both of these guys. Both guys are incredibly durable, and they throw a ton of strikes in all of their fights. Max Holloway has the record for most strikes landed in UFC history. He also has the record for most strikes received in UFC history. That is a major concern for me. He's only 32 years old. And now he's going up to lightweight, fighting Justin Gaethje, who hits harder than any of his previous opponents. I would say he's about even with Dustin Poirier, but we've seen him get these one-punch knockouts before. And I just think there's so many miles on Max Holloway. There's a lot of miles on Justin Gaethje too, but we have to talk about the discrepancy in power in this fight. Max Holloway is the quicker guy, but he does not hit as hard. The reason he lost to Dustin Poirier was because Poirier had the power advantage. Even though Poirier didn't land as much, when he landed, it mattered more. And I think that's what this fight comes down to. And I think Justin Gaethje has made it very clear this week that he wants a finish. I think he will get the finish in this fight. I think his controlled chaos mind style has been paying off incredibly well. He got a win over Rafael Fiziev, and then he knocked out Dustin Poirier. I do think that he will be the first man to knock out Max Holloway. I'll say round 4. I think it's going to be a crazy fight, potentially fight of the year.
Yeah, and the thing is, okay, so the story of this matchup that a lot of like the I don't know the UFC, but like just the news has been talked about. Okay, so Max Holloway went up to lightweight to fight Dustin Poirier, and obviously Oscar just kind of explained what happened. But they talk about the whole story is, well, now he's had time to properly put on the weight, which is fine, and you can put on weight all you want, but still, to go up weight, it's still a big difference after cutting so much weight. And sometimes after cutting down to a certain weight for so long, and when you go up weight, it's hard to keep that weight too. And that's a common thing as well with fighters. So as much as he can put on that weight all he wants, but he's been taking so much shots. And I mean, like he took a lot of shots with Dustin Poirier. I mean, just in general. And I mean, even after that war with with the featherweight goat there. After that third fight, he took a shit kick, and I mean, you take those hits like that really does a lot with your longevity. So that being said, you look at Justin Gaethje, and he throws a lot of power, but he can do that for 5 rounds. He's shown that he's not a guy that just can gas out, and even if he does, he's a guy that's not going to just stop. So that kind of power, he carries power with every single shot. And I'm curious with Max Holloway if he can take that kind of power. And there's not too many guys that can take a shot from Gaethje and be okay after. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with this matchup. But I just was the distance or not. I mean, I just think like sorry. So I feel like with the power with Gaethje, I just feel like it's going to be way too much. Whether it goes 5 rounds or not, I honestly could see a position where Max Holloway does get knocked out. Whether it's, but I don't think it's gonna a cold knockout. But I do feel like this could be a TKO. So I'm going to go with maybe a round 2 TKO for Justin Gaethje. I know that's a hot take.
That's pretty early in the fight too.
Mm-hmm. If you look at Max Holloway track record, obviously he's a guy that can take a lot of shots. So if there is one guy that can knock out Max Holloway, it's got to be Justin Gaethje, surely. And that's with any limb. As we see now, his last time he went out, he knocks Dustin Poirier out with his head kick, his high kick, in which was one of the craziest knockouts I've ever seen in my life. If Dustin Poirier's lost, I didn't see him going out like that. I thought Dustin Poirier was a durable guy, but then boom, head kick, out cold. If there is one guy that can do it, it is Justin Gaethje. He's literally called the highlight reel for a reason, and I completely agree with both of you. I think he gets a knockout win as well. I'm not too sure about if it's early, but I reckon maybe the 4th or the 5th round. I think we're going to see maybe a little bit of a beaten up Max Holloway. The one thing that we can guarantee, though, is Max Holloway will never, ever, ever quit on himself. He will never, ever stop.
Yeah, we saw that in the Calvin Kattar fight, that the guy can throw over 100 strikes and not really get tired. He's a different animal. And I think Justin Gaethje, even if he wins, will have a massive challenge on his hands. And I can't wait for this fight. I really can't. This is my number 1 most anticipated fight on this card.
Yeah, absolutely. There's bangers from top to bottom on this card. It's absolutely ridiculous. I said it before we went on there. When you got Davon Figueiredo and Cody Garbrandt open up the card, 2 former champions, it's ridiculous. The next one as well is an absolute barn burner. It's an absolute fantastic fight between Charles Oliveira and Arman. This is a fantastic one. Obviously, Arman coming off a huge win against Beneil Dariush. And Charles Oliveira looking to prove a point, obviously, to be in line for the next title shot. Charles Oliveira has obviously been around inside the UFC for a very long time, and he's off a win off against Beneil Dariush as well. Who gets this one? I feel like this one's a really close one to call. Do you side with Arman, who's been looking great, but or Charles Oliveira, who's he's been around inside the UFC for God knows how long, has showed how good he is. The fantastic story of getting knocked down and coming back up and, get to the title shot, winning the belt, etc., blah, blah, blah. Oscar, who wins? Is it DuBronx or is it Arman?
I'm going to have to go with Arman Tsarukyan in this fight. I just think that his time is now. I think Charles Oliveira had a fantastic run, proved so many doubters wrong in his rise. But again, this is another guy that has taken a lot of damage. Actually, he's been knocked out in the past, and Arman Tsarukyan coming off of a fantastic knockout over Beneil Dariush. Charles Oliveira also coming off a knockout over Beneil Dariush. But I do think that Arman Tsarukyan is the much smarter fighter, much more defensively sound. He is a fantastic wrestler. His top control is basically second to none in this division. Charles Oliveira has been in some spots where he's happy to be on his back, hoping that he gets that submission. But there's some guys that just aren't going to get caught in those submissions because they train that defense every single day. And I think Arman Tsarukyan is one of those guys that will be overwhelming to Oliveira on the ground. I just think he stays on top, lands some ground and pound. And on the feet, it's not exactly a complete advantage for Oliveira either. This guy is, as I said, not that defensively responsible. So there's been so many cases where he gets dropped in fights Arman Tsarukyan is one of these guys that will not allow Charles to get up. I think he takes the shot of being on top. So I think Arman Tsarukyan will win this fight by decision. But don't get me wrong, Charles Oliveira, fantastic power on the feet. He was able to drop Justin Gaethje. He's been able to knock out Michael Chandler. I do think that he presents some danger to Arman on the feet. Arman was dropped by Silva in Joaquin Silva in one of his last couple of fights, which was concerning, but he still recovered and he was able to get the finish in round 3. So I think Arman Tsarukyan continues his ascent to the division on his path to the rematch with Islam Makhachev.
Yeah, and realistically, when you look at this fight, I think I got to go with Arman, just based off everything. Pretty much what Oscar just said, he just answered my question, or pretty much had my answer. And yeah, I hope I'm wrong because I really like Charles do Bronx. But I wouldn't be too surprised if Charles, he gets knocked down, he gets put in this bad spot, he comes back and wins a fight. That's what he does. And I wouldn't be too surprised if Charles won either. But if I had to think a little bit more realistically, I have to go with Arman for sure.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think this could be the told you so fight of the week. I am going with Charles Oliveira.
I'm keeping that in my back pocket just in case if I'm wrong.
Yeah, right. I'm going with Charles Oliveira. You mentioned the Joaquin Silva. Obviously, he dropped Arman. And I feel like if that's Charles Oliveira, he drops you and he finishes you. He is a born finisher. He's a savage. It doesn't matter where the fights go. As you mentioned, the Michael Chandler fight, he can knock people out. And if you even dare go to the ground with him, he can submit you. So I think Charles Oliveira clips him and then finishes the fight on the ground. I think that's how he gets the job done. I'm going for a rock and soul.
Yeah, absolutely, and that would set up the rematch with Islam.
Yes,
100%.
That's what I would love to see that happen down the line. Charles Oliveira, obviously, I'm a fantastic fan as well. Would love to get it. Would love for him to get it done against Arman. Kind of prove that he's still about, and he's still live in the division. A fantastic one on the main card. I mean, we are stacked absolutely top to bottom here. Next one, we got Bo Nichols, Cody Brundage. Should we just skip this one over and just say all agree Bo Nichols? Does anyone want to talk about this one?
Yeah, I'll just say how Bo Nichols gets it done. I think Bo Nichols will actually take his time in this fight. Cody Brundage, maybe the best fighter he's fought so far. I think Bo Nichols gets the takedowns if he wants them, and on the feet, I think he can handle himself. I think he actually submits Cody Brundage in round 2. That's basically it. There's no way Cody Brundage wins this fight outside of a Bo Nichols slipping or something,
We've got a comment in here. We got around with that. My first round stoppage.
Well, that's a hot take, but I don't know if that guy was being serious. He was just fucking with us. But yeah, I mean, that's a hot take. You know what? And I'm gonna start off with saying, yeah, and I think Bo Nichols is gonna win. But I'm going to say this right now, and this is my personal feelings with him when they put him on the main card. This isn't Bo Nichols' fault that he got put on the main card. For people who are casuals or just people that watch this all the time, this isn't Bo Nichols' fault that he got put on the main card. This is UFC's decision. This is Dana White's decision. So if you want to be mad at anybody for him being on this card, you got to blame the UFC for this. I don't understand why they put him on here. It didn't make any sense. It'd be one thing if Bo Nichols maybe got in the top 15. It was fighting someone in the top 15, maybe. But he's not. He's fighting Cody Brundage, and I've talked with Cody before. He's a great guy. No disrespect to him, but this should not have been on the main card. But it is. So with this matchup, I do think that, Bo Nichols, I think, obviously he's wrestling. We don't need to – it speaks for itself. His credential speaks for itself. And I think he can handle himself on the feet, like Oscar said. So, I got to go with Bo Nichols. And I think this could be a second-round submission, possibly.
Yeah, Round and Dad put it on the head there. It's crazy that he's in front of past champions. I said before that Cody
fucking wild
could easily be in this position, easily be here. Jerry Pajazko, Alexander Rakic, easily be in that position. Even Holloway versus Kayla Harrison, it's just anyone.
Anybody on this card, really.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. I pretty much agree with what you just said. Yeah, there is no way to sugarcoat it. If Cody Brundage wins this one, God knows. God, I don't know. I don't know what to say. But he shouldn't. He shouldn't. It would be. It would be a miracle. Obviously, we know how good Bo Nickal is, and what he's showcased in his UFC career thus far. Is been absolutely spectacular. But we'll keep this swiftly moving on. To another fantastic fight, Ziri Prochazka versus Alexander Rakic. How good is it to say that name once again? I've missed Alexander Rakic in the cage. Well, some people haven't because I have. I think he's exciting. He's good to watch. He's had some good knockouts, and he's fighting an entertaining fighter. So I feel like this is going to be a really, really good fight because what we do know is that Ziri Prochazka is going to bring the fight to him, so he's going to have to fight. There's going to be a knockout in this one. And I love Ziri Prochazka, man. This guy is phenomenal. His character's second to none. The way he fights is entertaining. And that's exactly why I'm going for a Ziri Prochazka knockout. I love him.
Awesome,
yeah, I do as well. Ziri Prochazka always brings the excitement. But Alexander Rakic, he doesn't really care about it being exciting in certain matchups if it means winning the fight. Against Thiago Santos, in 3 rounds, only lands 36 significant strikes. He's happy to just pin him up against the cage and get control time. Against Anthony Smith, only 44 significant strikes. He's just happy to get the control time. And even in the Jan Blachowicz fight, just happy to get the control time. And I think Ziri Prochazka showed in the Glover fight that he's pretty good at getting back up. But I just think that Rakic, just like the Arman and the Charles fight, he's the guy that plays it safe. He's the guy that wants to win the decision. He's not exactly concerned about getting some crazy finish. And Ziri Prochazka in his last fight, he got knocked out by Alex Pereira. A little bit of an early stoppage, but either way, he got clipped because of his style, which I think is a big trade-off. Sure, he can land shots with unorthodox angles, but he leaves himself open all the time. Also, in the Glover Teixeira fight, he basically was knocked out in round 4, and then Glover goes for that guillotine. Huge mistake. Rakic ain't going for any guillotines. That guy will take his opportunity to win the fight when it's there. So I think Rakic wins the decision here. A lot of fans might not like how the fight plays out, especially the people expecting some crazy Ziri fight. But I just think Rakic can really just tame the beast that is Ziri.
Yeah, and you know what? And when you have a fighter who doesn't care about putting on the most exciting fight, but knows what they does what they know best, sometimes that could be the most dangerous fighter because they're not pressured by the fans to get in dangerous positions to make an exciting fight. And with a guy like Alexander Rakic, I think if he can just maintain a simple formula, go into the fight, keep things simple, do what you know. It can be very dangerous for a guy like Ziri Prochazka. But at the same time, I think this could be a fight where if he's just taking his time, it's like, I just want to win the fight by points and I'm okay with that. That's fine. But a guy like Ziri Prochazka can pick up on that and can pick up that kind of pace and pressure him. And that's where I think could give a guy like Alexander Rakic a problem. So I'm actually going to go with Ziri Prochazka on this one. And I do feel like this could be a 3rd round, maybe TKO.
Yeah,
Rambling Dad MMA podcast.
Yeah.
He says that Rakic and Jim motherfucking Miller are winning. I'm not sure about Jim Miller, but I am going with Rakic.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I've got Ziri Prochazka. I think he gets the job done, potentially even a knockout. He's wild, man. You never know how he's going to get a knockout. A spinning elbow, spinning whatever. He's crazy. His little hair jumping up and down because the way he has it in the ponytail, it's phenomenal. It's great stuff to see. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Another fantastic one on the prelims, by the way. This is incredible. I just feel like I'm talking about main events every time. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, literally.
Aljamain Sterling. Aljamain Sterling, a past champion. Obviously, the former bantamweight champion of the world. Obviously, last time out, lost to Sugar Sean O'Malley. Now makes debut at 145 pounds. He takes on a stable I would say, in the 145-pound divisions. Have fought, some good ones. Obviously, he's fought Max Holloway, he's fought Arnold Allen, Josh Emmett, etc. Blah blah blah. Jesus Kadze. But Calvin Kattar really needs this one, and he's fighting a former UFC champion, a bantamweight champion that had fought some good guys and put away some good guys. Does Aljamain Sterling beat Calvin Kattar, which I think is the most likely option? I think Aljamain Sterling beats Calvin Kattar and probably most likely submits him.
I really think that this is a tough fight for Aljamain Sterling. Aljamain Sterling relied on his size and physicality at bantamweight to win these fights. And in the Sugar Sean O'Malley fight, he's kind of strayed away from his typical game plan. Sure, he attempted a couple of takedowns, but he was very happy to strike with Sugar Sean O'Malley in that fight. Calvin Kattar is not a guy you want to strike with. He hits harder than Sugar Sean O'Malley. He's bigger than Sean O'Malley. And I think that's going to not be a good night for Sterling. Sterling's going to try to take him down. Kattar historically has had good takedown defense. He fought Dan Ige in a 5-rounder on Fight Island, stuffed all 8 of his takedowns. So I'm pretty sure that Calvin Kattar will be able to stuff some takedowns in this fight. And even if he gets taken down, I think he can get back to his feet. And Aljamain Sterling is one of these guys that has almost no punching power. He only wants to kick and stay at range, play it safe, all to set up his grappling. If the grappling isn't working, it's going to be Calvin Kattar boxing Aljo's face off. I'm going to go with Calvin Kattar to land the bigger shots on the feet, the more damaging shots over Sterling's control time potential in this fight, and win a unanimous decision.
Yeah, and you listen to Tyson Cartier, his coach and manager, and you listen to him and he talks about, we understand Aljamain's threat on the ground, but I mean we're working on that, like, and he's talking about how Kelvin can work on the ground too. Like there's people forget that Kelvin can fight on the ground as well. So I feel like he can stuff those takedowns, and I think the problem is that I can see a guy like Aljamain Sterling. He will try to shoot in this fight. I would almost guarantee, I put my money on that, he will try to shoot in this fight. Now, whether he starts at the beginning of the fight as a game plan, or he's going to start getting pieced up on the feet and he's going to be like, well, that option's out, and he's going to start going for it. I could kind of see something like that going ahead. He's going to try to stand with him. And don't get me wrong, Aljamain Sterling can fight on the feet too. But Calvin Kattar, there's levels to this game, and I do feel like he's gonna start piecing up Aljamain Sterling, and then he's just gonna start shooting for his life. And when he does, and he doesn't get those takedowns, then he's gonna be in a world of trouble. And he is going up weight, so he's not fighting at a lighter weight too. And sometimes you have to, the first fight that you have at a higher weight sometimes can be a struggle too, especially if you're not used to fighting there. I talked about fighters going up weight and fighting at a certain weight and cutting down to a certain weight for so long and going up weight. That's great. You can make the weight, but can you maintain and hold that weight overnight? That's going to be overnight. So that'll be very interesting to see what happens with Aljamain Sterling. But I do think that Calvin Kattar does have this fight, and this will be a domination fight for sure.
Yeah, he's an underdog, which is crazy.
Yeah, carry on, Oscar. Sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that he is an underdog. So for any bettors out there, I say take your shot.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm interested to see how it plays out, but some great points. When you mentioned about the physicality, obviously Aljamain Sterling, 135 pounds, kind of wanted to impose his will. He was usually the big guy, and I like that point that you made, Oscar. It might have actually swayed me to Calvin Kattar, but I don't know. I don't know on this one.
Yeah, it's going to be a big fight in the career of Sterling. Will he maintain a spot in the top of a division in the UFC, or is he just going to be a guy that has to accept that he's just too small for the division? We'll have to see. And talking about people moving divisions, let's move on to the next one.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Holly Holm versus Kane Harrison inside the UFC. That's right. Kane Harrison has finally made it to the UFC. This one at 135 pounds. Obviously, notoriously in her whole career, she's competed at 155 pounds. Or, she had a few soul fights at 145 pounds, obviously, in Invicta, blah, blah, blah. So the big question usually is, does she make weight? I'm fairly confident she makes weight because Luke made a fantastic point before we went on there. Surely the UFC would have, had some little bit of risk assessment, a little bit in this, and said, we're not going to sign you unless we're confident that you're going to make weight. Surely, at least. So I'm a little bit confident that she makes weight. But she's facing Holly Holm, obviously, one of the best strikers, in the women's division that we've had, and blah blah blah. Obviously, her kickboxing record is fantastic. Her boxing record is great. But she's coming up against a judo specialist who's looking to get to the ground, get you in that crucifix or whatever, get the armbar, whatever, and just absolutely smash you. And I just look at the styles of this one, and I just don't see how Holly Holm becomes the victor out this one. I think she's old. I think she's aging. I think in her last fight as well, I think she looks horrible. I think Kate Harrison absolutely demolishes her. I got to be honest.
Damn, Lenny. Tell us how you really feel, man.
That is how I feel. I feel like she demolishes Holly Holm.
Luke, you can go ahead.
Yeah, well, I guess I'll go ahead here. Like I remember we were talking before we started here, and I think with the weight cut right now, and I know I brought that up because of the weight factor. I think she can make the weight, and I talked about the question of how will that affect her performance, even though it's going 3 rounds. And as of right now, and I've seen her, I've checked up on her on social media. She looks like she's in great spirits. She doesn't look like she's struggling too much. I mean, physically, and a lot of times when fighters have really bad weight cuts, you can start to see they don't look good through fight camp. They just look sick. They don't look like they're doing too good. And then you see them, and there's doubts that they have health issues, and they don't make the weight, and the fight's off, and all that kind of stuff. I don't hear anything of that. I haven't heard anything bad. I haven't heard anything negative. I saw her the photo that the UFC took for her, and she looks great. She looks shredded for sure, and I have no doubt. I think that she's taking this weight cut seriously, and I think she's very disciplined, and this is very interesting. So when you look at I'm cutting out the whole weight factor. I think that she'll be fine. When you look at the matchup, Holly Holm again, she is getting old, and I know it sounds bad, and we might sound like we might sound really bad saying it, but it's true. She's 42, 43 years old. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but she's around 42, 43. You just get to a point where your body just can't, the mechanics of your body, it doesn't work as well as if you were 32. And maybe she's been able to fight well up to a certain degree because she's stayed fit and she stayed healthy and she's stayed active, and that's great. But we've seen that she's just slowed down, and we saw in her last fight with Marina, she just didn't seem to have too much of an answer. She looked good, but she just didn't look good enough, and she didn't look like she was 10 years ago. And I think that's going to be a big problem. Someone like Kayla Harrison, I think she can strike on the feet, and she strikes just enough that she can get a hold of you. And then I think it's all Kayla Harrison all night after that. When she gets Holly to the ground, Holly's shown improvement on the ground. I just think that Kayla just has that if factor when she gets a hold of you, and it's going to be good night, Irene.
Agree. Oscar.
Yeah, I do think that Kayla Harrison has the physicality advantage in this fight. Usually she fights at women's lightweight, which was basically a division created for her in the PFL. She's coming off of a win over Aspen Ladd in the PFL. She beat Larissa Pacheco twice in the PFL, but she lost her last fight to Larissa Pacheco. Holly Holm has not really had to deal with these fantastic grapplers in her UFC run. You look at her UFC run, all of these women are just striking with her. Even Amanda Nunes, who's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, didn't grapple with her. She knocked her out on the feet with a head kick. So I do think that Holly Holm is a little unproven in the grappling realm. And if you want to talk about grappling, how did she lose her title? Got her back taken by Miesha Tate in round 5 and tapped out. Or she tapped out and then she went to sleep. In this case, I think Kayla Harrison will be the stronger woman in the clinch. Holly Holm has a big habit of going to the clinch in all of her fights. A lot of people like to talk about her striking, but a lot of her signature work is done in the clinch, like it or not. And Kayla Harrison, as soon as they clinch, she's going to send her in the air with a big old judo throw. And from there, she's going to work her way to the mount. And I think by round 2, she's going to snatch up an arm bar or a TKO.
Yeah, agree. Pretty much, I think we're all on the same page of this one. I'm just excited to see Kate Harrison inside the UFC. I feel like there's some
Likewise.
interesting matchups in bantamweight for us. So I'm just good. I'm just happy to see her here. I was a bit disappointed that obviously the Chris Cyborg fight never happened, but here we are. Here we are, man. I was just still hoped Amanda Nunes stayed around for a few more years so we could have got this one, but it is what it is.
Well, Nunes has not closed the book. Nunes has actually appeared to be open about a comeback. So I would love to see it.
Maybe she just needed some time off. Obviously, her wife and her daughter, so that's all she probably.
Before we go any further to comment on that, I got a little bit of inside news. If you watched my interview with Raquel Pennington, I asked her about, do you think she's ever going to come back? And her explanation is obviously, the situation. She's friends with Amanda. Her wife and Amanda's wife, they're both friends. Like they're all friends together. And she talked with her, and basically it was an idea that she thinks that if there's something that happened where she would have to be convinced to come back, it would have to be something where Raquel gets beat up by somebody or someone that she doesn't like, or something. I think Amanda said might tempt her to come back. So there might be a situation. So again, that is confirmation that the door is open, as you said.
Yeah.
I would love to see it.
We'd like to see her come back. Everyone would, surely.
And Kayla is fantastic on the mic. I think she'll be a little nasty towards Amanda if she needs to do it.
Yeah, completely agree. Not as you mentioned there, not shot on the mic is Kayla Harrison. So if she wins, she'll be straight on that microphone and calling her out 100%. Next one at 145 pounds is Sadiq Yusuf versus Diego Lopez. Diego Lopez obviously came into the UFC and unfortunately lost, but since then he's been 2-0. A lot of train, a lot of hype has gone, against him. Obviously, he's put on some spectacular performances. Sadiq Yusuf, who I feel like has been in the UFC for an age. Who wins this one? Obviously, this is the biggest fight of Diego Lopez. He's stepping up every time, but off the back of the Pat Sabatini fight, this guy's, I feel like he's the real deal. Does he beat Sadiq Yusuf? I feel like he does, but I feel like this is going to be a tougher fight than the Pat Sabatini fight. I feel like this maybe is going to be a 3-round fight, a split decision, not in the favor of Sadiq Yusuf, which I feel like would be very painful because he's always on the wrong side of them or right side of them. But yeah, Oscar, you're first. Who you got?
I do think that Sadiq Yusuf is a fantastic underdog in this fight. I think a lot of people are buying into the hype of Diego Lopez. Diego Lopez, of course, he's been a monster in the UFC. He fought Movsar Evloev on short notice, and that was a close fight. That was a fight where he had multiple submission attempts that were close. Sadiq Yusuf is a powerhouse. He has multiple early KOs on his record. In his last fight, he fought Edson Barbosa, almost knocked out Edson Barbosa, but his gas tank was done after that. I think Diego Lopez might be a little defensively irresponsible in this fight at times. I think he's going to try to get some crazy finish, just like I talked about with Charles Oliveira earlier. And I think he's going to leave himself open. And I think Diego Lopez gets knocked out in round 2 in this fight. His best strength is his jiu-jitsu. But his last 2 opponents, they were wrestlers. So his last 3 actually were wrestlers. Pat Sabatini was a wrestler. Diego Movsar Evloev was a wrestler. And those were fights where he didn't need to get takedowns. He was able to get submissions going. I don't think that's going to happen in this fight. I think on the feet, this is a mismatch. And I think Sadiq Yusuf is a great underdog to bet on.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting fight, and pretty much what Oscar just mentioned. That's exactly what I was going to bring up, actually. And as much as Lopez, I think there's a lot of hype being driven behind him, but I just feel like Sadiq, I think he's going to be too much, and I have to go with Sadiq as well.
Yeah, so obviously that could be the told you so fight of the week as well. I'm going with Diego Lopez. A bold one. I'm always believing in the hype, though. That's the problem that I've got sometimes on this show. I always believe in the hype way too much. But yeah, here we are. Next one is 155 pounds. Is Jaylen Turner versus Hanoito Moicano. This is a fantastic one. Obviously, Jaylen Turner and Tarantula versus Money Moicano. This one, I'm not too sure how it's going to go. Oscar, who have you got and how?
I think Jaylen Turner gets an early knockout in this fight.
Yeah.
Renato Moicano is a guy that has been knocked out on multiple occasions, but in fights where he has this big grappling advantage, he can thrive. I'm not sure he can get the takedowns in this fight before he gets a huge shot from Jaylen Turner. Jaylen Turner is a lethal striker in this division. In his last fight, he took on Bobby Green, and he almost killed him. That referee should be in prison, if you ask me. That was a horrific stoppage. And if you look at the Dan Hooker fight, Dan Hooker has otherworldly durability. He took a huge head kick. Renato Moicano would never be able to survive that head kick. His last fight against Drew Dober, he got hurt in multiple times in that fight. He was very bloody after the fight. I just think that Jaylen Turner is a humongous lightweight. He's a force of nature. And I do think that Renato Moicano is in serious trouble in this fight. He got knocked out by Rafael Fiziev, Jose Aldo, and the Korean Zombie. I think Turner hits harder than all of them. And he's also got this huge reach. I think he demolishes Renato in round one.
Yeah, Jaylen Turner, man. That guy, he can hit and he can bang. I mean, he took up Bobby Green. Moicano, I mean, I think Moicano is a great fighter. I'm not here to say he's not, but you just look at the durability, and I just feel like his power is going to be way too much, and I just think he's going to get him out really quick, really early. So I'm going to have to go with the Tarantula on this one.
Yeah. If I was going to go side anyone, it would be Tarantula. The guy's massive. I always think how he makes 155 pounds. It's absolutely ridiculous. He's got some size on him. It's absolutely ridiculous. Next one, we've got the first 3 fights of the evening. We've got some fantastic ones. Jessica Andrade versus Marina Rodriguez. Marina Rodriguez, obviously, we know how good she is in the striking department. Jessica Andrade, obviously, we know how powerful she is. And obviously, she's got some good jiu-jitsu as well. This one, I'm going to go to Luke first. Who of the Brazilians have you got and who wins?
Well, unlike a lot of this card that's been really difficult to kind of pick, this one I felt was a little bit easier. I think with Marina Rodriguez, I just feel she's a little bit obviously taller, longer fighter. She's going to have that reach, which is also going to help her because she's a lot more technical. You look like someone like Jessica Andrade, and she's a lot smaller than a lot of the fighters that she's fought, and that doesn't mean anything. But the way she fights, the way she blitzes in, she has a lot of power. So if she catches you, it might be a nighty-night. But that being said, you look at her, I'm not sure if it was her last fight with Yan Shonan, and we got to see that. We got to see how easy and how kind of it's been textbook for a lot of these fighters to keep on the outside and keep your distance and just pick her off. She blitzes a lot and she swings wild. And I think that's going to be a very dangerous thing for herself because Marina Rodriguez has that technical side and she's got some really good hands and maybe not as much power, but that power is not so much she needs. She just needs those angles. She needs the reach. And I just feel like I can already see how this fight's going to play down. I can just see it. So I can see maybe possibly a second round knockout from Marina Rodriguez, but it wouldn't surprise me if we see it in the first round.
Yeah, I think even though you look at their ages, Jessica Andrade is the younger one in this. She has an incredible amount of experience. In fact, no other woman in the UFC has more experience than her. And if she wins this fight, she surpasses Amanda Nunes for most victories in women's MMA and in women's UFC history. So that definitely shows that she's got a lot of miles on her. Marina Rodriguez, on the other hand, is someone that we considered to be a future title challenger years ago, and I think that is still a possibility to this day. It's just her grappling has let her down on multiple occasions. And against Amanda Lemos, she got knocked out in round 4. Jessica Andrade is still very dangerous, but you look at her, 2023, it was a tough year for her. She starts off with the Lauren Murphy win, ends the year with the Mackenzie Dern knockout, but in the middle of that, she got finished many times by Erin Blanchfield, Yan Xiaonan. It was not a great look. I think Marina Rodriguez is going to be quicker on the feet. She's got the 3-inch reach advantage. I think she stays at distance, outpoints Jessica Andrade. Jessica Andrade could make this tricky with takedowns, but she tends to want to standing bang more often than not. So I do think Marina wins the decision with her superior striking. Not to mention, in her last fight, she butchered the Karate Hottie Michelle Watterson Gomez. That was not competitive. She looked awesome in her last fight.
Absolutely agree. That's a fantastic one. Obviously, that's the first women fight of the night. But we'll talk about Bobby Green versus Jim Miller. Jim Miller fought in UFC 100, UFC 200, and now he makes the walk at UFC 300. Just a fantastic story overall, really. And he takes on Bobby King Green. I think stylistically for the fans, this is a good one to watch. Obviously, it's a good moment to see Jim Miller walk into the arena after the milestone. Just being around, he wanted to make this one happen so bad, and it's just it's a good feel moment. But he takes on Bobby Green. Does he beat Bobby Green? I'm not too sure. I don't think it happens. I think Bobby Green is, he's got some fantastic striking. He knocked out Grant Dawson, Tony Ferguson, obviously submitted him. Obviously he's coming off the back of the loss against Jaylen Turner, though. Don't know how much that would affect him, but I still feel like he has enough tools, and I'm a little bit more miles to get the job done against Jim Miller. Oscar, to you first.
I do think that Jim Miller is the man that should be celebrated. He should be in the Hall of Fame, but I don't think in 2024 we're going to see him as a ranked fighter because he's in for a tough matchup against Bobby King Green. Bobby Green, sure, he's coming off of that horrific loss to Jaylen Turner in December. But before that, he demolished Grant Dawson. He knocked him out in about 30 seconds with a jab. So still a dangerous man, if you ask me. Jim Miller, on the other hand, I hate to say it, but he's not been fighting the best competition. That's kind of how he got to the most wins in UFC history. He's not fighting ranked fighters every time out. He fought Gabriel Benitez in his last fight, a guy who is really at the latter stage of his career. And I just think that Bobby Green has a big advantage when it comes to boxing on the feet. There are many fights that Bobby Green makes closer than they should be because he just shakes his head. He says, "Oh, that didn't hurt me." He likes to play around, and that's not a great strategy against Jim Miller. And if you want to talk about advantages for Jim Miller, he's got better jiu-jitsu. I don't think he can take down Bobby Green. He's got fantastic takedown defense. It was only really Islam Makhachev that gave him problems. I think Bobby Green, he comfortably outpoints Jim Miller on the way to a decision here. I just think that Jim Miller was given a bit of a too tough of a fight for 300. I would have liked to seen him, run it back with Clay Guida, even the Paul Felder fight, I guess, but like an easier fight for him, a more winnable fight. I just think that this is a little too much for Jim Miller at this stage.
Yeah, Luke, do you agree?
I'm gonna just forget everything that Oscar just said. I'm gonna throw out all that technical crap. I want Jim Miller to win at UFC 300. Forget all that. I'm not gonna break down this fight. Let's just say I want Jim Miller to win at UFC 300. It'd be awesome. It'd be great. He's been in the game for a long time. But despite what I want, looking at the fight, I do agree with Oscar. To be honest with you, like I just feel. With the experience side, I mean, Bobby Green has fought in a lot tougher competition, but also Bobby Green, he hasn't really been in that top 15. He just seems like he just can't break in there. Or maybe he has, but he hasn't really truly got close to maybe a title or even title contention, whatever. But neither has Jim Miller. But that being said, Bobby Green has fought the bigger fighters, the bigger names, and he's fought Islam Makhachev, so he has a taste of what it's like to fight the best of the best. And Jim Miller is, despite everything he's done in the sport, and I think he will be in the Hall of Fame one day. I just feel like experience-wise, I just don't think it's going to end too well for him. But this could be a either way kind of fight. So I'm not going to really pick exactly who, but I give more the edge to Bobby Green, but I'm not going to fully say it's Bobby Green that's going to win the fight. I am just going to give the edge more to him.
Yeah, if we kind of rewind a little bit, I know at UFC 100, Jim Miller beat Mac Danzig, and at UFC 200, Jim Miller obviously beat Takamori Gomi. So he's currently 2-0 at obviously 100, 200. Does he get the hat trick? That's the if there is one fight that Jim Miller is going to be motivated for, I feel like it's this one. Though I feel like this one means a lot.
Yeah, it certainly does. And he said he's not even going to retire after this fight. He's still got some left to go. But I just think Bobby Green is too high level for Jim Miller at this point in time.
Agree. I think I feel like that's pretty much the nail on the head there. I think nothing else to be said. Let's talk about the first fight of the evening. I still think this is ridiculous how this is the first fight of the evening, but here we are. Davison Figueiredo versus Cody Garbrandt, two former champions inside the UFC. Which one gets it done? Obviously, we know Davison Figueiredo has a lot of power in his hand, but so does Cody Garbrandt. Cody Garbrandt is very quick with his hands. Davison Figueiredo has some grappling as well. This one I feel like is quite a close call matchup. I feel like I'm not too sure to decide. Obviously, Cody Garbrandt went on a bit of a losing streak, but kind of not found himself a little bit. But he fought some lesser competition, got some wins, and now he's got a little bit of momentum. Obviously, he beat Trevin Jones. In his last fight against Brian Kelleher, looked spectacular. He looked good, but how much can we take away from that? We don't know until he fights Davison Figueiredo this weekend. Who wins out of the former champions, Davison Figueiredo or Cody Garbrandt? My voice is going. This is phenomenal.
I love this fight so much. I think that the wrong Cody is on the main card. I think this will deliver absolutely a spectacular fight. I do think Davison Figueiredo, even though he was a flyweight, he hits just as hard as most of these bantamweights. His jiu-jitsu is fantastic, and I do think we're going to see him finish Cody Garbrandt in round 2 of this fight. Cody Garbrandt has been in a very tough situation ever since he got knocked out by TJ Dillashaw to lose his championship. And then he gets knocked out again by TJ and then by Pedro Munoz. And then he even goes down to flyweight, gets knocked out by Karo France. Sure, in his last 2, he fought Trevin Jones. Trevin Jones, no longer with the UFC, not that high level. And then he takes down Brian Kelleher, a guy who has never been ranked either. Sure, he can beat those guys, but I'm not sure about a guy as lethal as Davison. This fight was supposed to happen in November of 2020. Yeah. Cody Garbrandt actually came down with a bad case of COVID-19. That's why the fight didn't happen. But even then, I do think that Davison would have beat him. And I don't think my opinion has changed since then. Davison, if they're in the pocket, will clip Cody Garbrandt, finish him in round 2.
Over to you,
Luke Kelly.
Yeah, and let's not forget that Cody still has that power, and I'm not dismissing that. If I was Figueiredo, I would not ever overlook him. But you look at this matchup, and I just feel like Cody, he's been knocked out so many times, and it's like everyone knows the formula to beat him. And Davison Figueiredo, sure, he's going up weight, and he's not fighting at flyweight anymore, but going up in weight and everything, I just feel like he has that power, and he's got that, and he's okay, and he knows how to get in the pocket. He's gone 4 fights with maybe one of the best flyweights in the world, or maybe he is the best flyweight in the world. I don't know, but he's been with one of the best, and he's had 4 fights, and he's had fights and tough fights. He's been in there, and I just feel like he knows how to find someone's chin really easy. And I just feel like Cody Garbrandt, I don't think this is a big trash talking fight. We've seen when he gets very emotional, he gets very emotionally invested in fights, he loses, and he loses in the end. But still, I just feel like everybody's found that formula to beat Cody Garbrandt, and when he does fight those high level guys, they just find a way to find his chin, and he just doesn't have the chin to take the hits anymore. But Figueiredo, he can get knocked out too. So we're definitely going to see what happens. But I just feel like Figueiredo, the way his footwork is and the way he leads, I just feel like this is going to be a tough night for Cody, and I think that Davison Figueroa is going to knock out Cody Garbrandt. I don't know which round, but I just feel like it's going to be a knockout for sure.
Yeah, I agree. That pretty much wraps up. Well, not wraps up the whole card. I feel like we are an embarrassment of riches this weekend. We've got a lot of fights happening this weekend. Obviously, the stacked UFC 300 card is absolutely phenomenal. As I get this loaded up again, I'll try not lose my voice. The main card is fantastic, but if you had to choose one fight that you thought was going to be fight tonight, or as a certified banger, which one we choosing, boys?
Luke Kelly, you go first.
Yeah, it's the way you threw me on the spot there. I wasn't really prepared right this second, but you know what? I'm just gonna go for. I think the Battle of China, that could be a really good banger. I know we talked about our predictions, but if they both can eat some shots and keep it on the feet, and no one tries to take anybody down, I really think this could be a 5-round war. And I mean, we've seen it. Zhang Weili has been in those 5-round fights, especially with someone like Jacek, and I just feel like that could be a really big one. But if I'm wrong, if that's not the fight of the night, I do think Alex Pereira and Jamal Hill could be one as well.
Yeah, for me, it is absolutely the BMF title fight, Justin Gaethje versus Max Holloway. That fight will deliver absolute fireworks. Both guys I talked about have very high volume striking, and Justin Gaethje hits like a truck, but Holloway will not go away. This is going to be an all-timer, if you ask me. And before we go on to Lenny, I would just like to recognize the UFC going out of their way to make this event feel special with the custom shorts. You got to see those custom shorts on Max Holloway, the floral, Pereira with the Brazilian shorts, Gaethje with the American shorts, and Zhang Weili with the Spirit of the Dragon shorts. I think they've done a great job of giving this fight card a unique feel. And I wonder what color will that canvas be this Saturday night?
I'm going with the black and gold.
Well, do you think gold lettering in a black canvas or a gold canvas in black lettering?
A black canvas and gold lettering, or they might even go with, because like it was the 30th anniversary was last year or something. Yeah. So I feel like maybe they might do something where they bring the original design of the canvas when they first had the UFC with the old UFC logo with that. It was almost like a cream color canvas. I think they could do that as well. I think that'd be kind of cool. It'd be a nice homage to the original UFC, the look and everything. They could do that as well. I'm sure they're gonna reveal it very soon, and they may not. They might just keep it for the pay-per-view, or excuse me, for the entire card. We'll definitely see. I think it's really cool. And to elaborate on Oscar's talk about the fight shorts, I think that's really cool what they've done. We're gonna see more of it. I think this isn't just a UFC 300 thing. We're gonna see more of this. I mean, we see Bryce Mitchell's kind of the one that kind of started the whole I want my own kind of thing going on with the camo shorts, and then we get to saw Sugar Sean with the pink ones. So it's only a matter of time that you're gonna see a lot more fighters having their say with the shorts and whatnot. I think it'll be the select few that will get a chance. I'm just quite surprised that not more fighters got more of the choice. Like I thought maybe Charles Oliveira might have had a chance to have his say with some custom fight shorts, and who knows, maybe there are more. They just haven't revealed it, but something tells me that these are just the ones that these are only fighters that are going to have their chance to have them. But I don't know. It'd be awesome to see more of them, but I don't think it's going to happen. But here's to hoping.
Absolutely, I love the customized customized shorts. I think they're phenomenal. Really enjoying just really enjoying it. I like it. Obviously, he talks about Bryce Mitchell. That guy is obviously he talks about he started off also. I'm happy. I'd love to see it go on. I'd love to see more personalized shorts for the big ones at least though. For the pay-per-views, etc. The big fights, surely they will. I feel like McGregor, he'll have his own, surely.
Money shorts.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. And That will be a massive event when Conor McGregor comes back. And word on the street is they might announce McGregor versus Chandler for UFC 303 at the press conference. It's a real possibility. Dana White said coming soon. Conor McGregor said coming soon. We'll see.
We'll find out this weekend. We'll know what happens potentially tonight, potentially tomorrow, whenever. Guys, thank you very much for joining me, Luke. An absolute pleasure. Absolutely good to have you on the show once again. Always entertaining. Oscar, good to have you on the show as again. But yeah, make sure you join the fights this weekend. Do we have any last sending off words for them?
Luke Kelly.
Get the popcorn ready. Don't blink, and spend your money wisely. Spend your bets wisely. That's all I gotta say, because a lot of these fights are really tough to call. Yes, please don't. That's like one. That's one you will guarantee to probably 99% win.
Yeah.
There's no money. Don't put him in your parlays. Don't do it. He won't add any value whatsoever. And as Luke Kelly said, enjoy the fight. And one last thing. This is Sparta. Also, one more thing I gotta add. Advice. Yeah. If you're watching the fights with people, you got folks over, you got like a good group of people. When the main card, at least when the main card comes on, shut people up. You want to hear the commentary. The commentary is gonna be great. I think the commentary, like you got the three OGs coming in. Yeah, you're gonna want to hear them talk, especially with Rogan. And I mean, like those guys together, they're gonna have great commentary. It's gonna make the event great. So you got people over, shut them up. Don't get the beer out and then just enjoy the fights. Yeah, mute the casuals.
That's funny. But yeah, don't ruin it for everyone else. So make sure you tune in from the start as well. Make sure you make sure you're watching that first fight, because this one is the one that you do not want to sleep through if you're on a European or if you're a British. Make sure you get that tactical nap in, because you're going to need it. It's going to be a long night. It's going to be a fantastic night of fights. A tactical nap. That's what we call it over here, Luke Kelly. But yeah. Thank you very much for joining me, everyone. An absolute pleasure. We'll catch you next week where we talk about everything that happened and more so. Thank you very much. Catch you then.